is the first of many more conferences to come. This is only the first. So if we do not get you at this present time, we want to make sure that we plan on putting the questions on some form of email source so we can make sure those questions get taken care of. With that, I would like you to have just a food for thought. In the incidents that brought us here today, there are many shooting victims. Trayvon Martin, Jordan Davis, both unarmed. The chokehold death of Eric Gardner, the beating of Mrs. Marlene Pinnock, an unarmed woman. From a B article, Leonard Fitz Jr. once reported the incident of South Florida, the suburbs where teenagers ages 18 and 19 broke into a basketball star's home because they just wanted to look what it looked like inside. They didn't know his wife was home. She screamed and ran. The kids were questioned and released. Authorities declined to prosecute, saying that under Florida law, there was no crime with which the group could be charged. The kids were white, Hispanic. Mr. Pitts challenged and double dog dared anyone to tell him that if several black kids had invaded a home in a wealthy neighborhood in the middle of the night, would likewise have gotten the good talking to? The answer would most likely be no. We open up with dialogue at this present time. As I said again, we're here to get answers. We're here to get clarity. We want to be transparent in what has happened. So with that, I'm going to turn the podium a little bit. And we're going to ask the first question. The opening question will be, what are you doing in the community to avoid a situation such as the events that occurred in Ferguson, Missouri? Who would like to first start that out? Yes, Chief.
I'll jump right on it. First of all, thank you for coming out. You know, when you talk about how do you avoid it, this is one of them. You take a proactive stance on it. And you go out there, you start having dialogue and establish relationships. At the Sacramento Police Department, the City of Sacramento, that's the first and foremost thing that we try to do, is establish relationships throughout the entire community. Recently, we actually changed our policing model here about a year and a half to a geographical based one, so that we can be closer connected to the community that we serve. Because not every community is the same, right? We have to tailor policing to the people that live there and give them the kind of policing that they want, not just one type of policing across the entire city. With that, we've done a significant outreach in a lot of different areas. And I'll throw the first one out as like neighborhood watch, and that's just a basic one. But that really starts getting an opportunity to get neighbors together, get law enforcement together, and start talking about their particular neighborhood. We try to take a modern approach to it also, by using things like social media, using nextdoor.com. So again, we can start having that dialogue back and forth, but also have the neighbors here. We've also done something that's kind of innovative, I think it is we have a really strong relationship with our faith-based community. Because I think those are some of the most powerful people, if not the most powerful people in this community. We have a program called Cops and Clergy. Now with that, you know, some people look at it and they think, well, yeah, you're doing that just for like a gang intervention or something like this. But it's much broader than that. When we took on that initiative, part of that was just understanding of where we were and where we want to go. We're not happy where we are today. Are you happy where you are today with the way that things are done in this community? No. Well, neither are we. And we want to do it better. But the way we're going to do it better is not by what we think. And yeah, we might be law enforcement, we might know what we're doing, but it's your community. It's our community. So we have to do it together. And that's one of the most important things we're doing, is there's lessons learned that we get from the community. There's also a lot of power, and there's an opportunity to open up minds, open up ears for people to listen. Because sometimes we might come and you know, our officers go in, and I'll tell you, you have a fantastic, you have the best officers in the nation in Sacramento right now. They're the most educated, they come across very well, they're very professional. Do we have our hiccups from here and there? Absolutely. but they're very good. But part of that is making sure that people know what they're doing and understand that sometimes the perception is that they're there to arrest and incarcerate. Come in a community, that's all they do is come and arrest and incarcerate. But they're really trying to protect and serve, but maybe the message that they're giving is not being understood, or maybe they're not understanding what they should be doing. And that's where the faith-based community is helping us. It's helping us to guide us and make sure that we're doing it better than we did before. To make sure that we're hitting, you know, the right buttons. Make sure that we're talking to the right people. Make sure that we're doing things correctly. Because in our world, in a lot of ways, for a lot of years, it was how do you solve the problem? You throw a bunch of cops out, you make a lot of arrests, problems go away. But that's really not going to solve the problem. It just comes right back. And then you have other problems that get compounded. If you look at the incarceration rates, they're way out of balance. Even the incarceration numbers are way too high than what they should be. So having those connections, establishing those relationships when you don't have something going on is a lot easier than trying to establish or start something when you have a Ferguson going on. So situations that we're doing right now, events that Councilmember Warren and Mayor Johnson have put together here in conjunction with Betty Williams is huge because we can be here. And you're going to get some feedback, and I would hope that it would be honest feedback. I would assume it's going to be. And that's what we want because we need to hear. If we're not hitting the mark, then we need to adjust and make sure we do it better because we work for you.
Thank you very much, Chief. We're going to have that question go right down the line, but at the same time, I'm going to do just like they do in many different places. We're going to use the 2-minute and 3-minute rule. All right? Thank you very much, Chief. You did an excellent job. Pastor Hanks.
Hi. What are we doing in the community? We are right in the heart of Del Paso Heights, where the Lord placed us. So to answer your question, what are we doing for the community? We are doing what the scripture tells us to do.
Amen.
We feed those who are hungry. Every Wednesday, we feed from 80 to 100 plus families. I think part of the problem is people are hungry. That's why so much of the crime is going on, no money. So we do that. We also have a clothing ministry. We have a ministry wherein we give away everything that's in our backyard. You can have free. That might be a refrigerator. It might be a stove. It might be a dishwasher. It might be clothing. And so we do that. We have a tutoring program to try and help educate the children who are having difficulty with their studies. The other thing that we have, and we're coming up on October the 4th this year, will be our 14th year of Anti-Drug Summit. At that summit, we have Captain Hun who comes every year to talk about what goes on in our communities. The other thing he teaches us how to approach the policemen when they come after you or come to you. And so we are doing, well, you know, sometimes we have to be taught certain things. There's nothing wrong with holding up your hand when you see a cop stopping you. As old as I am, one stopped me at 5:30 in the morning, and my heart started beating fast. It did, because he put the siren on me, and he said, "Where are you going this time of morning?" I said, "I'm going to work." He said, "Did you see that? Do you know why I stopped you?" I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "Let me see your license." I said, "My purse is on the floor. May I get it?" And I said, "I want you to know that," because he didn't know what I was reaching for. But he wanted to see my license, and they were in my purse, and he said, "Do you know why I stopped you?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "Did you see that stop sign back there?" I said, "Yes, I did." And I stopped. He said, "No, you didn't." He said, "You did a California roll." And he said, "The next time you come to a stop sign, you stop and you count to 5 before you move." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Have a good day."
All right.
And so what I'm doing in the community is trying to teach our young people the best I can to do God's will, because we are there because I believe that God is directing our path.
Amen.
the 100 Black Men of Sacramento. So what we do is basically simple. We love on our children. So we offer several programs throughout the year. One being the Young Law Review, that we bring over 300 children to the downtown courthouse. We take them through the jail cell. We take them in the courtroom. We walk them through the whole process. You don't want to be in this situation, and that's what we try to show them. Hey, this is what you could do, or where you could be. So don't do anything that gets you here. Another project that we do is the celebrating young Black men of color. So another event where we have probably over 300 young African American men or any minority men come, and we give them a chance where they can talk and be themselves. And we hold classes where we talk about how to approach a police officer, how to get a job, how do you act when you're going to a job interview. So, also we do mentoring in elementary schools. We believe that it's easier to bring a child up than to try to fix a broken child. So we try to get them at a young age. So I could go on and on and on and on. But what we really need, we need to do more as an organization. And me as president, that's what I'm going to try to embark on. I'm going to try to recruit because we need more 100 Black men to tell the story that I'm telling you right now.
Great. Thank you very much. I have Chief Eric.
Yes. Thank you. I'm going to have to echo a lot of the statements and thoughts that were already said here. It really starts with opportunities like this for all of us to come together, not just law enforcement, but community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, and you, the community, coming out so we can all interact and have this open and honest dialogue. And that's really important. That's how we set the foundation and the stage for us to go forward in having positive relationships. One of the things Sheriff Jones did 4 years ago was he established a faith-based community advisory board where he meets regularly with the church leaders to have that open dialogue and have that communication. So they can tell us what needs they have and we can share with them what we have. So we can all work together. They can go out into their congregations and have that open communication with their congregations as well. We have the same type of meetings. Sheriff Jones has the same type of meetings with the community as a regular standing community-based organization meeting that he has. And he meets with members of the community. It's a very diverse community, and again, he has that open dialogue. Some of the programs that we started 3 years ago that we're very proud of are the Sheriff's Activities League, where we go out into the community and we started interacting with the youth. And it's really the first time that we've done that in the history of our department. Traditionally police departments have a police athletic league. We've never had that, so we started one 3 years ago. We were blessed to be able to go over to St. Paul's Baptist Church on 14th Avenue and the Family Life Center. They opened their doors to us. We were able to go in, interact with the youth. It was wonderful. That program has grown, and we've reached thousands of kids at this point. It's really given us the opportunity to build that trust at the lower level so that the youth grow up and we have that trust as they get older. And the youth aren't running from us. They're running toward us. We have the same type of interaction. I see Maureen Price, and I said a little bit earlier, from the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. She opened her doors to us, and we have the same type of interaction at the Boys and Girls Club. It's been wonderful relationships that we've had with those communities, and we hope to continue that. And we're especially focusing on the youth because today's youth are tomorrow's adults, and we want to have those positive relationships as they get older.
Can you also tell the organization that you're with?
Always Marketing Corporation. We're an alternative to youth and gang violence. And one of the main things that we try to do in the community is try to educate the people on what their rights are when they are pulled over by the police department. A lot of our people has been known to be intimidated by the police because they don't know their rights. Yeah. And the speech is, well, it's better for you if you cooperate with us, but no, don't incriminate yourself. So one of the main things we try to do is we try to educate the community on what their rights are. 2 questions you get pulled over. Officer, am I on arrest? If he says yes, I want to see an attorney, which stops him from further questioning you to incriminate yourself. If he says no, then I want to let go after you do whatever you got to do. That's one of the main things in the community is we are not educated enough about our own rights. And it's up to us. We can't wait on others to educate us. We have to educate each other. And that's one of the main things that we do at our organization. Another thing that we're trying to do is break down some of these walls that only certain people get the resources. If you're not on the top 10 speed dial, you don't get that phone call. It's time for us to go outside of the 10 people on your speed dial so that other people in the community get those same resources as those other people. And the thing about it is we do it in a positive and corrective way so that people say, oh, we're being biased. The thing about it is if we don't educate each other on our rights and how to conduct yourself when you are pulled over, it will continue to happen. Always like to thank you.
Thank you very much. Chief, Blake,
Good evening to all of you. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Born and raised in Sacramento, still part of this neighborhood. I went down to high school here at Dragon, 1982. Mayor Johnson. Anyway, my office is in your neighborhood. I'm down the street, Broadway and 26. You're welcome to stop by and visit with me to discuss any concerns. I want to begin by thanking Stephen Webb. Mr. Webb, thank you very much for extending an invitation to the California Highway Patrol. Far too often we're excluded from events that occur, so thank you. California Highway Patrol, we're a statewide organization. We take great pride in the people that we hire. We're very, very selective. And what we're doing at this point is we are reviewing our policies, our training, and looking at if we have to make adjustments. Like these other law enforcement agencies, we too have the community-based programs, the volunteer programs, which are Explore Senior Volunteers. And I would extend that invitation to you and those family and friends to look into those, our websites, to be able to learn about those opportunities so that we can also be reflective of our communities. We make every effort to attend our community events on a statewide level. Our commanders, we have 103 commands. Our commanders have been told, with the events going on, not only here in California, but Los Angeles, throughout the nation, to get out into our communities, just as I'm here tonight, and reach out to our faith-based organizations, our pastors, NAACP. We, like other departments, we're facing a defining moment at this time. As we know, chances are all of you have seen the video of one of our officers in the Los Angeles area. Well, one of the things that quickly was evident was the established relationships, and I think it was shared here a moment ago. It was evident for us, it was those established relationships that make a difference. In the Los Angeles area, we had full community support. True, everybody's standing by to wait to see what happens. And I can tell you with great pride that all of our commissioners responded to the Los Angeles area, personally met with these communities, and told them that we were going to be transparent. I'm pleased to report to you that today the California Highway Patrol completed its investigation and turned over the criminal investigation to the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. I'll tell you that when I first viewed the video, like many of you, it sent a shockwave, but as I discussed it with my staff, it was evident that it impacted them. How could a member of our department do this? Well, I was not there to explain or try to justify, but simply concur that we need to gather the facts and allow the district attorney's office to make a decision. But like every other law enforcement agency, we do make an effort to get out in the community. We will be at the R&B Festival to answer any questions you, friends, and family may have, and we'll be in recruitment mode. So if you have any one you recommend, we welcome you at our table. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also have to thank Chief Willie also because the California Highway Patrol will be also participating in the Sacramento NACP Festival. They will have officers there and also be recruiting for those that might need jobs. So we'd like to have our next speaker at this present time, Mr. Robert Phillips.
Thank you. Robert Phillips, Sierra Health Foundation. In thinking about this question, I would say that I would associate us with all those remarks, but we're doing something a little different, which is it's recognizing the reality that we're in. And let me just say what that is. So 70% of the children in California under the age of 25 are children of color. And Sacramento mirrors that. And half of that number are males of color. But more often than not, rather than seeing that population as an asset or an investment, they're seen as problems or trouble. And so the work that we're engaged in around Boys and Men of Color is really to change that perception. And it's to partner with institutions like law enforcement, like education, like health, to actually position the conversations as investments. You wouldn't squander an investment. So how do we actually begin to have a conversation where the relationship between the communities in which they live and who they are positioned as asset-based, investment-based, and not squandering those investments that we actually need for the future. So what does that look like? So it looks like addressing issues like African American child death in Sacramento County. So I don't know how many people know that over the past 20 years, Sacramento County's collected data on child death rates and morbidity and mortality. And over those 20 years, the children that have actually suffered the worst outcomes when it comes to child death are African American children. So one of the efforts we're engaged in is answering that question. How do we actually make sure that doesn't happen in the future? The second is around males of color, particularly African American males. While disproportionately we know all the numbers around dropout, we know the numbers around contact, what we're actually working on is how do we begin to position policies, whether it's about revitalizing families and strengthening communities, how do we position them well for education outcomes, but also how do we position them well for less disproportionate content. So we're partnering with California Endowment and with Always Knocking, Center for Fathers and Families, and Non-Familiar Resources, and Asian Resources Incorporated, building an effort to actually work directly with the young men to create an agenda that not only empowers them, but empowers the agencies to partner with them, see them as what we said that we think they are, assets and investments.
I'm Pastor Anthony Sadler. I represent Shiloh Baptist Church, 158 years old and 58 years in the Oak Park community. Also represent an organization called Cops and Clergy, where a number of pastors in the area came together in January of 2013 and merged together with the then Deputy Chief Summers to see how we could make a difference in our community and increase the dialogue and the relationship between community, clergy, and law enforcement. I want to tell you, I grew up in Sacramento, and my position as my age has changed as I've gotten older. There was times where I was pulled over by officers where seemingly for no reason. There were times where I sat on the sidewalk too long for seemingly no reason. And now we've gotten to a place now where I'm tired of the futility of being on one end of the aisle and on the other end of the aisle, police yelling one thing and community yelling another, and there not being a solution. I found as I've gotten older that the way to do this is to have the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace, as the Bible has said. And that requires establishing relationships. We've established a relationship together with Chief Summers and the police department to where we feel we are helping one another. We're giving them an understanding of what we think the community is looking for. They're giving us a perspective and understanding on their challenges at law enforcement. There's a relationship that has been built up now where if something happens, I can call the chief up and get through to him and ask him, what's going on here and why is this happening? And then we can work together on a solution on how to best proceed. I was listening to the news this morning, and Captain Johnson of the state police back in Ferguson said, I believe there was a turning point made, and I think that turning point was made by the clergy, the activists, the volunteers, and the men and women of law enforcement partnering together to make a difference. That in turn with the peaceful demonstrators that heeded the call to come out, demonstrate peacefully, and then return to their homes, created an opportunity for it to be one of the least violent nights since this tragic event happened out in Ferguson. What am I saying? I'm saying clergy doesn't have all the answers. I'm saying law enforcement doesn't have all the answers. But it's that combination between the clergy, the law enforcement, the community leaders coming together and saying, we want to make Sacramento better. We want to make sure that that kind of thing doesn't happen. And the only way we're going to merge together and build a trust is through building relationship. Not waiting until something happens and then coming and having all kinds of fights on the court steps, but on coming together before something happens in meetings such as this and having real dialogue on what is your perspective, what is your understanding, how can we work together to ensure that nothing like that ever happens in Sacramento, California.
Thank all of our panelists on that first question. They did very well. They were very timely. We'll even be more timely on the second one. I do want to acknowledge our city manager, Mr. John Shirley. I believe he just came in. Sure. I'm sorry. Apologize. But we want to acknowledge him with a round of applause again. Now that you've answered that question, we'll follow up with this particular second question. What can we do as a collaborative group to prevent this from happening in our community now? We've said a few things on top of it, but now we need to get more specific. We'll start off with with Greg King, please.
I'm going to piggyback on the new standard of accountability. One thing is the community. Once we elect our officials, we can't just sit back and let them be elected officials. We got to hold them accountable, just like the mayor said. We can't sit back and complain to ourselves without going to them, but also within our community, it's time for the community to organize as a community. There's so many people that's community leaders that's not recognized as community leaders. It's time for us to recognize them, come together. It's time for the community to form their own committee of accountability when something happens. It can't just be the ones on the top 10 speed dial. It has to be those also outside of the top 10 speed dial. Also, it's time for us to bring our young people in. I went outside. There's more young people outside that want to come in than there is in here. We can't continue to leave our young people out. We got to involve our young people.
Amen.
Young people.
Amen.
Future. If we continue to leave our young people out and don't educate our young people, I'll leave it as a question.
Amen, brother.